Jay and Smith, thank you so much for agreeing to share some information about the UAE with our students. Greatly appreciated. To begin with, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves and perhaps just a little bit in general about the UAE?
Sure. Myself, my name is Jay Krishnan. So people, for easy, you can call Jay. So I live in Dubai since 99. It's almost let's say 22 years. And I born and brought up in India. When you say in India, southern states called Kerala. We all called maybe people are called God's own country for because of so many reasons. They call God's own country. You can Google it and see. And I came to Dubai in 1999 as I started working in a company called Alphatim. I was basically an electronics engineer. I started my career as a engineer. Then later, I after a few years I started my own business. Then that's so it's IT related business, and that's what me and she's my wife, Smita. We met in Dubai, and she born and brought up in Dubai, UAE. So yeah, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. I'm Smita, like how he introduced. I'm born and bred in UAE. It's been now 40 years. Okay, I just disclosed my age as well. So I've been in UAE for the past 40 years. I've did my education also out here in UAE. I'm a banker by profession. Mostly my expertise is into the service sector. And right now I'm into the private banking in one of the local banks in UAE. And like how Jay said rightly, we met in UAE and got married. So that's a small introduction from our side. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, and very interesting that both of you met in Dubai.
Yep.
Let me ask you this: for a foreigner doing business in the UAE, could you share with us some good business tips or some common business practices on what to expect, what to do, or what not to do?
See, to do the business in UAE, there are multiple laws because there are free zones. There are LLC, LLC or in US and also LLC, limited liability company. So to do any of this business, you need a local sponsor. So like local sponsor always hold 51% of the share. But because again when you say though he has 51% of the share, you can decide initially what is the percentage of profit sharing. Some business people say they won't share the profit to the sponsor. We call us a sponsor here. Though legally he's a partner, we are called them as sponsor. But in all registration, all court documents, his name will be there. 51% of the share will be his own. But again, profit as you decide initially, you can when you communicate initially agree. So if for example now I'm into business. So my case, my partner, local partner, he hold 51% of the share. But in terms of profit, he is only having 10%. So though like some most of the cases how it works even 10%, because some sponsors they won't get into your business. They will fix an amount. They'll say okay, yearly you pay me this much. That's it. They won't get into your business. 90% of the cases happens like this, even in foreign companies, even big companies. But then when it comes to free zones, there are free zone companies. There are free zone, multiple free zones, like a airport free zone. When you say airport free zone, the in airport free zone, all the companies are something or other related to some air, like aviation related. For example, Boeing has a company here that's inside the free zone. Those free zone companies, they don't need a local sponsor. But there are limitations. They cannot do any business with the local companies. So similarly, there are multiple free zones: airport free zone, Jebel Ali free zones. There is another one is Internet City. Internet City is again a free zone company where any big companies like Microsoft has an office in Internet City, or Oracle has an office in Internet City. That's how the general business terms with a local sponsor.
And in most of the cases, when an agreement is rolled out with a local sponsor, they are even referred to as a silent partner in the
Exactly.
company or a sleeping partner. Though they, the agreement states that, a certain percentage goes to the sponsor, but there wouldn't be any activities that relates to that local sponsor out here in majority of the companies.
This is in terms of setting up a company. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. Um, so if I arrive in Dubai, for example, and it's my first time doing business, what should I expect in the way of proper greetings or introductions? Do you use business cards a lot, or even my manner of clothing so that everything is appropriate with your culture? Could you offer some suggestions along those lines so that I wouldn't embarrass myself, so that I would do the proper thing?
See, Dubai is when you say Dubai, it's UAE country. When you say UAE, UAE is though it's an Islamic country. I'll say uh, 70 to 80% of the people who lives here as expatriates, and such a tolerant country. You can find, I don't think any of the other Islamic countries you will find church, you will find temples, everything is here. And such a tolerant country, it's an example to the world. That's what we wanted to say. And when you say you know what not to do, like greetings and business, when I say greeting, generally in all Islamic rules or Islamic tradition, they will say when you meet a person, they'll say Assalamu alaikum. Then he'll reply to us, alaikum assalam. And this is a normal tradition, though if you are not a Muslim here in UAE, no locals expect you to say Assalamu alaikum. But there are, even people say, even if you don't say, there is no problem. That's so they greet. Then only thing is when you meet a local lady, sometimes what happens is like as a tradition, some people they offer a shake hands, but most of the local ladies they won't shake hands with you. But I'm talking about a man. When a man greets, when lady greets, of course there is no problem. But then I mean, it is, they don't take it as an offended. They may only reject. They may say thank you something. Then you yourself gets I mean uncomfortable when you offer somebody doesn't. So that you need to be very careful as a man. But ladies there is no problem. So that's the only thing I think I can say, what not to.
What not to do. It's like only when
Rest,
you, if you approach a local Muslim lady out here, we have to just be, because in this part of the world, in UAE, I should say, women as usual, they are given more preference. So we have to just take extra precaution when we deal with the local ladies out here. With utmost respect, we should be speaking out to them. And like how Jay rightly said, 72, the majority of the population out here is the expat section. All the nationalities are out here. But having said that, it's a tolerant country also in that terms.
And most importantly, the local language here is Arabic. And I think this is the only country in this world you can live without, learning the local language. I've been in this country for last, as I said, 20 plus years. Till now, I can't talk Arabic. So you can do anything here. Yeah, you can live, you can work, you can do business without knowing the local languages.
When you, okay, okay. Oh, you lost them. How do you get them back? Okay. So to continue, let me ask you this. Is it important in the UAE, if one first meets a non-native UAE person doing business, would you exchange business cards right away? Is that something that's very important?
It is not that important nowadays. Let's say if it's till 2, 3 years back, yes, people used to do that, but nowadays, no one does that. People no, it's all moved to digital, so they know that there's no point giving business cards. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's not that important, but still, when we go for a meeting, any customers, we carry that, and understanding the situation, if it's required we will give, if it's not required, yes, we don't.
Okay, very good. Understandable in these times too. The next two questions. So if it's my first time in the UAE and I'm excited about doing business, I know in some cultures it's good to get right to the point. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. And in other cultures, it's very circular. You would never mention exactly what you want immediately. Perhaps you would socialize first, have dinner first. How would you perceive the UAE? Would you prefer that a business person be direct with you? Or is it something where let's get to know one another first, more circular, and gradually go into the request for business?
Generally, of course, yeah, this is that again, it depends on the business what you do. Generalized socializing, of course, but not as Europe or US. Socializing, of course, some sales happens, that after socializing with people. But generally here, when you say, you don't need actually, if you want to sell something, or if you want to if you want to present something, as long as your product is good or you're confident in yourself, you don't need to take him for a dinner or take him for a party to promote your product. Then if something which you wanted to sell, and you know that this is not a good product, or this is not a quality product, to sell this I need this person's favor. Of course, in those cases, might be you need to, it's a favor basically. Otherwise, this culture is totally different. You don't need to.
Okay, understandable. Now, let's say that we are having a meal together, that we're at dinner. Is there something that I should be aware of when I'm having a meal, when I'm dining with someone from the UAE, on what is culturally correct, even in maybe the placing of the hands or utensils and so forth? Is there something that I need to be aware of?
I don't think so.
No, actually speaking, yes. Let me answer that. Yeah, they do. In UAE, they do give importance when you are at a meal, in terms of how the utensils are placed, in terms of the restaurant where you are, in terms of the service that you're getting in that place. The ambience, the environment, all these are considered by the local people out here. And especially if you're going for a meeting, yes, it really counts. They do give preference. It should be when you're going, say, suppose you're taking the business, you're combining business and meal together. Definitely, there should be a good ambience in the place where you are going out for the meal.
But again, the question what she asked is a culturally, like you are saying culturally, but we all follow in UAE, generally we follow Europeans or Americans when you dine. So I don't think, the question was like culturally, when you take the locals, do we need to, I mean, that's a question you asked, right?
Well, locals do give preference. They do go to the top shot places out here. But well, it's
Yeah.
they do give.
But then
preference, yeah.
they respect the person who sits next to you. So they always respect your culture. It is not that necessary that you should follow their culture.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Speaking of culture, is there anything that I need to be aware of, as in sitting properly or conversing, using my hands, for example, one hand over the other, or are there any gestures that I should be aware of that should be avoided, or even making direct eye contact with someone along those cultural lines?
Well, with the local people, yes, they do prefer an eye-to-eye contact. rather than you having your eyes right on the desk. They would prefer an eye-to-eye contact. And even in terms of your body language, they would prefer someone who is like modest and hands folded like this, rather than your hand shouldn't be all across. So the locals, they prefer a decent approach. And also in terms of the dressing sense, they prefer, see, since it's a local, it's an Islamic country, well dressed. They wouldn't, even if there are people who are coming from European countries, they would prefer that formal look, whether it's a male or a female in such environments. This is what I feel, because I have many local friends where I'm working. So this is the feedback, and this is the way I have learned from them. They would prefer it that way, because they feel that is it's not against their culture, and we are giving utmost respect to them as well when we follow it that way.
Okay, thank you. If we can move on to maybe some marketing strategies. So we are advertising GNC's Waybolic, and some general questions about how people shop in the UAE, if you can say things in general. For example, would you consider that people would be more concerned about quality over quantity, or quantity over quality? And along with that, if I need something, here in the United States, we tend to buy very large quantities of things, stock up. Would you buy things on an as-need basis? Are the quantities smaller or larger as far as packaging?
Out here in UAE, basically, in many of the houses, what they do is they buy and store for a week.
Okay.
Not on a day-to-day basis. So it's like, see, everyone in every family, the husband and the wife would be working. So the weekends out here is on Friday and Saturday. So they prefer, okay, one day in that Friday or a Saturday, they go and they purchase for the rest of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it's so for a week they are all docked up in the house, so that they don't have to, in the weekdays, they don't have to spend time going and doing groceries.
See, one important thing is, like as I said initially, the 70% of the people are expats. So those expats are working expats. So when you say unemployed, there is no unemployment here. I don't think
No,
any
there's no,
percentage.
yeah.
I don't know within the local if they have some unemployment, that I don't know. Otherwise, there is no so everyone is it's earning.
Okay, I understand. Would you go shopping then on the weekends? You would take one day and perhaps do shopping for a week. Now, you're a
Exactly.
husband and wife. Would you both go shopping together? Would one person over the other go shopping? Or do you usually shop together when you go?
Well, to be very honest, he doesn't come for, the grocery is done 100% by me. He doesn't have any contribution in that. So it's only me. I normally go out on a Saturday. I spend a good 1.5 hours doing the purchase for the house, and yes, I am back home.
But that's not applied in all the places, because I have a partner. He does grocery shopping himself, and he looks price here and there, offers, then he does for his family. But here
I have the time. I would say I have the time, so I go and I do the purchase. And yes, I do see, like to answer one of your question, the quantity over the quality. I look at both the aspects in terms of the quantity, how much is required for a week, and the quality of that product which I am buying. So vis-a-vis both, I'm having a look, and then only I purchase that product.
Okay, that's great. What about the packaging itself in the UAE? Would you say that much packaging is done in plastic or glass or paper, and that would go along with recycling or environmental concerns? Or do you see all types of materials being used in how products are packaged?
I think all kind
All
of
kinds are being used.
been used here, and of course the government is moving towards environmental
Yeah.
friendly, so they have
Recycling.
recycling.
So in every nook and corner of the road, you can actually see the recycle cans, the containers kept. So whether, and they have categorically kept it as paper, plastic, general waste. And then of course that is being recycled at a later stage in some other place where they accumulate it and take it for recycling. So we see all types, whether it's paper, plastic, all such items are being used for the products.
Okay, and another question about packaging. Here in the United States, for example, there is certain information that I would expect to see on the outside of the package. If it's something that I'm going to eat, they let you know all of the ingredients, the percentages, and so forth. What do you expect to see on the outside of packaging in the UAE? Would it be the same, that all of the ingredients of the product are listed? Would that be solely in Arabic or in Arabic and English? What languages are used on the packaging itself?
It's a multi-language packaging. I mean, language which we see on all the products displayed out here. It would be definitely in English, as well as, yeah, the products will be there in the local language, Arabic as well. And it gives a detail of the percentage of what all items goes into that product. So each and every consumer who buys that product, they will go, for me, I definitely, if it's anything healthy, I will definitely go and see what are the percentage of calories or carbohydrates which gets into that product before I buy it. So it's, yeah, it plays a very important role in each and every product we buy.
Okay, and along with that, with advertising in the UAE, I'm sure a wide range of advertising is used, from internet to television, perhaps radio. Could you discuss a little bit about the advertising in the UAE? Would that also include billboards on highways or in subways? Where do you think that people learn the most about a product today? Or is it just the internet?
Today, like how Jim flashed, it's more on the
Social
mobile,
media,
social media, especially Facebook and Instagram. That's the two main platforms which are being used right now in UAE, and of course on WhatsApp messages as well. These are the main social platforms which are being used, and of course when we are driving, more than the billboards which are set up on the highways, people, they tend to listen onto the radio if there's any sale or anything, where we can go and get a product. So,
but again,
yeah.
unlike in US or other countries, here the outside advertisement is it's restricted in the sense there are many rules and regulations. You cannot, if you have a product, even if you want to place a board outside your own company, there are many regulations. You have to come across so many regulations. You cannot just like that put. If you want to stick something on the public area, you are not allowed to do it. So you can't find any advertisement in the public areas. There are, of course, there are signboards, but when you compare to US or European countries or in India, it is much lesser. And this, no, anyone can't do that because each sector, let's say, if you want to advertise something, you cannot go and advertise. You need to approach an advertising company. They have standards, like in some few areas they have a signboards they can display there. Other than that, you cannot go and stick your advertisement everywhere.
Okay, also with products, of course, here in the United States, we have sales all the time, whether it's minus 25% or buy two, get one free, and the sales are every week, all the time. Would you expect to see, do you have a lot of sales in the UAE? Would you wait to buy something until it's on sale? Or what type of sales do you have? Do you have the buy two, get one free, or buy one, get one half off, or minus 25%? Or are the sales just controlled by the government, just different times of the year?
Well, there are variety of sale offers which happen throughout the year from Jan until December. You have buy two, get one free, or you have a flat 70% off, and that also on brands like Zara, Louis Vuitton, anything. You name it, you have it across the year. And it's like, we get, they let us know, they let the public know that there are sale by sending SMS to your local number, the mobile number, or on social media. So we get to know that there are sale going on. So it's not restricted for a particular month, but from Jan till December, it's on.
That's always, and I think this is the only country where the government itself take an initiative for sales. There are some months, they'll say Friday sales, 3-day sales.
Yeah.
So government, even if you wanted to sell, there is another rule. It's not like if you have an outlet, you cannot just go and put a 70% off. And you maybe, people does like they increase the price and reduce by showing the percentage. But here the government, if you are putting a sale board, you need to get an approval from Ministry of Economic Department and show them. Maybe I don't know how they interact, but then they will have some guidelines you have to go through. They get an approval, then only any promotions you need to get an approval from the ministry.
Okay,
But
that's
sales is
very
that's keep happening throughout the year.
Mhm. What about
And people wait
coupons?
for it.
Do you use coupons?
Yes. Yes, we do get coupons. Like when I go for grocery, basically I have the coupon card. So how much ever I purchase, 10% of that goes as a coupon into one of the card authorized by that particular outlet. So I will prefer going to that outlet only every week because I keep accumulating my coupon and then one fine day I redeem it. So yes, coupons work very well out here. Even if you go and buy a chocolate from a particular company, they also have coupon cards there. So yes, coupons work very well out here in UAE. And there are many, majority of the population people out here, they work out on this coupon fact, that they make use of the coupons out here.
Okay, going back to your shopping that you do on a weekend, the stores that you go to, would you frequent smaller family type stores? Do you prefer the very large supermarkets or hypermarkets where you can find everything? What types of stores would you do most of your shopping? And with our product, which is the protein powder, the Waybolic, could that be found or could that be sold in a variety of stores? Or would that be limited as to where you would perhaps find that?
Okay, weekly I go out to normally the hypermarkets where I get A to Z of all the items which I need for the house. Now coming back to the protein powders, such powders will not be available in hypermarkets. But having said that, the only added advantage is these hypermarkets are positioned in such a way that there would be a pharmacy right next to the hypermarkets. So we can find such protein powders just right beside the hypermarket. And if there is a necessity, we can just walk in, check with them, and they can give us the item which we are looking for.
Okay, that's perfect. With the product that I'm selling, whenever it arrives in the UAE, port of entry or at an airport, what types of distribution would be the most common to get it to the final? For example, Smitha, you said that it would be sold at pharmacies. Here we use a lot of ground transportation with FedEx and UPS. Of course, we use a lot of trails. Would it be mainly highway, or what type of, who would I use to distribute my product to get it from the port of entry to pharmacies or to wherever it's going? Would there be a variety of choices that I would have?
Yeah, when you talk about distribution, if let's say a foreign company want to introduce some product or sell some product in this country, you need to have a distributor. Either you can have your own office here in UAE as a distributor, then you can distribute to either to your resellers or directly to the showrooms or whatever, supermarkets or wherever. And the transportation then It's geographically it's a very small country, UAE. So from distribution to the all these outlets, it via on the roads.
Okay. Smitha, going back to two things that you said. So Smitha, you said when you buy things, of course, you look to see on the packaging for the calories or the carbohydrates. And Jay, you mentioned that if someone wants to do advertising or put up a billboard, that you have to have government approval of some sort.
Exactly.
Yes.
Would there be any other government requirements that I would need to be aware of in the way of labeling or import taxes that I could expect? Now, you also said, Jay, that one would use an intermediary in selling products. Those type of government aspects, do you have a VAT tax on all of your products?
Yeah, here in UAE, there are import tax, but again, government has set import tax percentage for type of products. For example, now computer related products, they have, I think, 10 percentage of import tax. Similarly, each product they have government set a percentage, but it is very minimal. If you look at other countries, it's very minimal. And of course, there is a value added tax. Value added tax, see, generally the VAT paid by the end user, not the distributor or not the reseller. So today I'm buying something. If I'm buying a mobile from a shop, the price of the mobile, let's say if it's for 1,000 dirhams, there'll be 5% of value added tax. That's VAT. So I have to pay that VAT to the reseller. Then again, the reseller will pay to a distributor. Distributor pay the same thing to the government. So end of the day, the end user pays the VAT. There is no, other than that VAT, there is no other, tax applied here. Of course, as I said initially, there are import tax. It depends on the product what you import.
Okay, thank you. Trying to think what other questions I would have. Is there something else that you can think of that I have not mentioned yet or you have not discussed in the way of doing business in the UA? Something that someone needs to be aware of, or the packaging, or the advertising? Or do you think that you...
Well, if you're introducing a new product, definitely there should be a very strong advertisement in place before it even reaches the shelves out here.
And the promotions.
And the promotion of that product as well, because if it is not convincing, we don't see the users reaching out to such products.
Because many, even Uber Eats, Uber delivery, I remember when they introduce such a way that whoever install the application, they gets up to some maybe 50 dirhams or 100 dirhams free order. Similar way, to reach the people, you need to run some kind of a promotions. That is for sure.
What would be some typical promotions that you would expect? Now, with these promotions, would you expect to maybe receive something for free about the product, whether it be a t-shirt or something, or would you expect famous people in the UAE to be promoting different products? What types of promotions?
Again, it comes to
See, if you're talking about a protein powder, let's take that as an example. So a protein powder, definitely a person will look forward for that to be displayed on that person's body, right? What is the end result on, once you use that product? So if you get someone to market it who's, having a, like a bodybuilder or lean fat guy. So that adds, it's like an icing on the cake. If you have
addition to it, I just remembered because we go to fitness centers from last 10 years. So I see many promotions, which especially in this protein powders, when we go to gym, there are company representative, they stand there, they give free of cost.
Yes.
They say, okay, maybe the quantity wise it's less. And, they give, and as a, to experience, it's absolutely free of cost. But again, they will have to have some kind of a tie-up with the gyms, fitness centers, or yeah, of course, when you, especially when you want to promote a protein, of course you need to tie up with
All the muscle builders.
all these fitness centers.
It all depends which product you're marketing. So
Yeah.
basis that, such a person needs to showcase that product if it needs to be sold in the market, especially in such a small market where variety of things, you name it, actually you find it over here in UAE. And cost wise also, yes, it's cost effective. So you have to reach out through all the social channels, market the product in such a way, yes, the people out here are waiting for such a product.
I think iPhone is cheaper than US in UAE.
I hope so. I hope so, because it's expensive here. Um, my last topic, but certainly an important topic. Uh, as a company, many companies like to think of corporate social responsibility. So not just gaining money and making money in your country, but trying to give something back. Or can you think of any ideas of perhaps what other companies have done in your country in the way of corporate social responsibility? Would this be deemed important in the UAE or not so much?
It is important, but again, all these social, all these commitments, basically your government itself makes sure that all the company does. But say you have a company which is making very less, maybe 100,000 dirhams in a year as a profit. Government knows that there is no point, asking you to do commit some kind of a social, commitment. So similar way, they have some programs, social commitment. It's like they force you to do it, even if you don't want to do it, you have to do it.
Okay. And I want to go back to one other question I forgot about. So, Smitha, again, you said that either by yourself or both of you, you do the shopping on the weekend. Do many people shop using internet? Would that be a common way? Internet? I mean, here, especially since the pandemic, Amazon has.
I was just coming to that. With the pandemic
Okay.
situation, many of the users have moved on to the internet, where like Amazon, we have Noon out here, like Amazon platform only. So people tend to buy from the using the online applications rather than paying a physical visit to the hypermarket. But then a person like me, I would like to go through all the various items available and pick the best. So it also differs from person to person, whether you want to buy it online or whether you want to go in person. It's a mixed reaction across.
But again, last few years, let's say for example, for last 2 years, the online shopping has been increased. Amazon has,
Yes.
graph has went up very drastically. I mean, very not
High,
drastically,
yeah,
very high.
high. But now that the vaccinations are out over here in UAE and majority of the people are vaccinated, I have seen that people are coming back, in person to the hypermarkets and purchasing rather than how the situation was couple of months before in year 2020. So people are out there in the market and they prefer, going and checking
But
out on the
again,
browser.
depends on the product. Today,
Yeah.
if you want to buy a laptop, I don't think if you visit a showroom, you won't be able to find
Yeah.
much options. So you have to go online.
So it
There is
depends
no other
upon
options.
what product you're buying, whether you need to be physically present there to buy it, or if the online options are better, you can choose accordingly. So it all depends upon the product.
Again, when it comes to grocery, I think 80 to 90% of the people depends on the stores.
Stores, yeah. If it's a grocery, if it's like electronic items, I think we have a variety of choices online, so we can go online and check it out. So it depends.
It trustable. It is that trust is there in the market. Yeah.
Okay, that ends the questions that I have. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? I thank both of you so much for giving up your Friday evening and now almost Friday night in speaking with our students. And I can't thank you enough.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think we have given whatever
Yeah,
feedback.
and this is our first experience,
First
something
experience.
something like this.
So, but we are
Yeah.
happy to give more.
Yeah.
If the children have more questions, we are happy to answer them. Hopefully, we should have the answers to those questions.
Okay.
So, yeah, we are okay with it. I mean, if children have any questions, they can definitely approach us at any point in time.
Even you live in Pittsburgh, right?
Yes, yes, I do.
Uh,
Yes.
I've been to Jim's office once, uh, a few years back. I think around 2013. Yeah, it's 7 years back, 7, 8 years back. When she's also, we all visited US, but she different part of US. Uh, but in Pittsburgh, only once I have visited. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, Jay, if you're invited back to Pittsburgh, bring Smitha and we
Sure.
can go out. Smitha, we can go shopping together and,
Definitely, of course.
and enjoy ourselves. Thank you so very much. And what I will do is I will share with the teachers your emails that if the students
Okay.
have any questions, that you would be able to, willing to answer them. Thank you very much
So,
for this evening.
email, as I said initially, you can share with her because the mail which you communicate with my official mail. Maybe all the, you can copy me. There is no problem. There is no